Mike, it's great to have you back on InvestorStream to talk more about the latest from Redbank Copper. Firstly, let's start with the news that you've secured a top-shelf drilling contractor and received all relevant approvals for drilling of the priority VTEM targets. Can you just give us a recap on the recent work that is currently underway behind the scenes, and when can we expect to see the rig in action?
Yeah, thanks very much. It's been a couple of months since I've given one of these presentations. So obviously I've changed roles, and now my role is purely technically focused. So that's enabled us to absolutely have a laser-like focus on securing a drill rig. The rig is UDR 1000. It's got 1000 PSI on the bit, so we've got an auxiliary booster. So we've definitely got a rig now that's got the ability to drill down to the target Wallagrang horizon. That rig is going to mobilise in early June to the Redbank project, and we should be drilling by the middle of June. I'm actually travelling up there in the next 10 days with the driller. So we're going to make sure that prior to the drill rig arriving, all of the logistics of drill pads and access to the drill site is easy, so we can have very good, efficient drilling program.
Thanks, Mike. It seems that Redbank's strategy has always been to identify a sediment-hosted copper deposit, and you've now established a suite of very attractive drill targets across the project area. Can you just give us a breakdown of the VTEM and Calvert South targets, and what makes these targets so appealing from a technical perspective?
Yeah, so two separate targets there. The first one, 5 kilometres east of the Redbank breccia-hosted copper deposits. Late last year, we identified a roughly 5 by 5 kilometre VTEM conductor. And when we processed that airborne EM data, the conductor resolved precisely in the lower Wallagrang shales. Now, I'll come back to why that's important in a second. Let me go over to the other target that you mentioned, which is the Calvert South area. And we identified that via soil sampling. So we did around 5,000 regional soil samples last year. First summary of those two things is that where we're working is remote, and it was an incredible effort by the soil samplers and the airborne contractor to fly the survey and to complete those two surveys. So we got the results of the VTEM late last year, and with processing of all that data, it's precisely aligned in what we had postulated as the sweet spot for a target horizon for sediment-hosted copper systems in the area. And no one's really gone chasing those. People have postulated them in the past, but no one's gone chasing them with a drill rig. Over at Calvert South, exactly the same thing. We're very close to the Calvert fault, and we've got high order copper anomalies. So over 1,000 ppm, so 0.1% copper just in the soils. So we believe those are significant copper anomalies in the soils, and we have pathfinder elements associated with that that make this anomaly ginormous. So we've been in the process of narrowing that big area into some discrete targets. Across those two areas, the reason we're so excited about it is that the Redbank project area is right in between the Century deposit that's out to the east and the MacArthur mine that's to the west. And we have copper prospectivity in between the two. And the technical work that the team has been doing here for the last couple of months is reviewing all the previous work that's been done. And there's some really interesting science that's been done by one of my old university professors, Ross Large, that is really starting to highlight the copper prospectivity in the Proterozoic rocks, in what's called the Tuala group rocks that we're looking at. So really it's a process of bringing all the hard work that people have done on the ground last year with a lot of work that the academic world has been undertaking for the last few years, and then narrowing those down to the best drill targets we can possibly identify. And part of going through that process of getting the drill targets is making sure that we get the approvals from the Northern Territory government to do that. And the Northern Territory government has been fantastic. So we submit the applications. It only takes weeks to get approval to get those drill targets approved by them. So all in all, we're pretty happy about where we're at and excited about drilling in just over 2 months' time.
Thanks, Mike. So in terms of the exploration focus moving forward, you've identified a cluster of VTEM conductors east of the breccia-hosted copper deposits. How has that shaped your strategy?
So one of the things to understand about that VTEM survey is that we flew over an area that was surrounding the breccia pipes. And when you go and have a look at the ASX announcements that show the diagram of the results of that VTEM survey, you can see that there's only a very small number of discrete conductors in the image. What that survey's been doing is it's energised all of the Wallagrang formation, that lower Wallagrang, which is the shales. And the reason we like these targets we've got so much is that it's only in that specific area that the Wallagrang is conductive. We know that the Wallagrang is a host mineralisation because we've sampled it where it daylights. But where it doesn't daylight, we found these VTEM conductors a couple of kilometres north of where it daylights. And the important thing about that is where you get a shale that's conductive, it's carbonaceous and sulfidic. And they are very good hosts to receive copper-bearing fluids. So the exploration model that geologists use when they're chasing sediment-hosted base metal systems seems to fit perfectly with the geology we've got, the geophysics and the geochemistry. So it's all coming together nicely to get good drill targets.
Thanks, Mike. So clearly Redbank has a busy runway in the lead up to the commencement of the 2020 field season, which you mentioned kicks off in June. Are there any final comments or observations that you'd like to leave with us today?
I think one of the things we've done at Redbank since we identified how prospective the area is to make sure that Redbank is set up for success in the future. So appointing Hugh Thomas as our managing director has been a very important position. And we now have the corporate gravitas to go forward, raise the money and put the money into the ground to test these targets. So the whole of Redbank as a team is really looking forward to the field season ahead.
Thanks, Mike. Really appreciate you joining me today. All the best for the upcoming field season, and hopefully we'll get to speak to you soon and see how things are progressing. Thanks for joining me.
Great, thanks. I'm pretty excited about how we're going forward with all this. Thank you.